How
Sure
you
you
doing,
were.
Jesse? Jesse is here now.
I'm all right. I've been a little sick the last couple days, so
Oh, here we go.
my
Here we
voice
go.
is a little raspy.
You've been on the show once in like the last 3 weeks, and now you've got raspy throat.
I'm
It's
sick,
it's the changing of the weather, would be my guess.
amongst other things.
Amongst other things. There's been a groundswell of whiteboard desire, I guess we should say.
Before we get into that, I
Uh-oh.
just thought I
Uh-oh.
caught some of the end of the Chad Bishop interview
Okay.
there.
Go ahead.
Um, I just thought it was, you know, he's the Georgia Tech fan base, and I'm going off of some of the stuff that Chad said there. Seems to be really optimistic about Georgia Tech's run defense. And I just really liked the way you posed the question of, well, North Carolina had some success running the ball last week, and he almost got just dismissive of being like, well,
Oh,
that was
well, that was just, yeah.
a really good running back. And it's like, okay, but have you
Have you
seen
heard
what
of
Notre Dame has done in the
Jeremiah
run
Love
game?
or Jadarian Price? Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. And then he was like, he almost made it seem like, like if Riley Leonard runs, I have news for you, buddy. He has the most carries amongst anyone on the roster. He's going to run the ball. Like Riley Leonard is going to run the ball. Jeremiah Love is going to run the ball. I
Right.
don't know. It just felt very dismissive for something that's like, that's what Notre Dame does best. Like if you can expect anything, you can expect a heavy dose of the run. And I guarantee they're going to run the ball better than what North Carolina did.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, it's the best. This, regardless of what some Notre Dame fans maybe think of this offense, it's probably the best offense, definitely the best running offense that Georgia Tech has seen to this point. So it's going to be a massive test for them.
So yeah, I just had to chuckle because I was like, dude, like they are going. It's not a matter of if they're going to run the ball; it's when, and it's a matter of is Georgia Tech going to do anything to stop the run? You know what I mean? I don't know. I just felt just weird vibes. Like Riley Leonard is definitely going to run the ball, and he's going to run the ball probably at least 10 times. Like he leads the team in carries. Like they're going to, and if Notre Dame saw a weakness with the North Carolina running back, like they got to be licking their lips, being like, all right, well, we got a guy who can actually run the ball, Like, I don't know. I just thought it was a very interesting dialogue. That's all.
All right. All right. Good perspective. I guess I didn't look at it quite to that degree that you did, but I think you're probably right. And I think Michael is right as well. Georgia Tech is going to have to stack the line of scrimmage and dare Notre Dame to throw. But, like if you look at what Notre Dame did against Stanford with some of those RPOs, I think that a heavier dose of, a continued heavy dose of the RPOs can help take care of some of that. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think this offense is kind of starting to get into where we thought they would be game 1 and game 2 of the season in terms of kind of designed runs, design RPO schemes that can come off of those design runs. Like everything in the Denbrock offense has layers, and you unlock a level and then you unlock the next layer or the next level that comes off of that base play, right? And so I think we got, or maybe not even I got, maybe a little eager or anxious because I wanted all that stuff to kind of start, progressing game 2, 3 in the season, and they weren't there yet. And now I think you're starting to truly see, the different layers of this offense and how everything sort of builds off of each other.
Well, yeah, and this goes to what Michael is saying here. He says, while our passing offense was decent last week, it still ranks low. I mean, it's never like, if you're going to look at the national rankings and see where Notre Dame stacks up, it's never going to rise that high in the national rankings. It's just not, because you're 6 games into the season this point. As we started saying a few weeks back, the only thing you have to look at is what does it look like now, and is this week better than last week? That's what they have to keep. They have to keep stacking. And from Miami, they stacked, and it was better against Louisville. And from Louisville, they stacked, and it looked better last week against Stanford. Now, yeah, Stanford does not have a good pass defense, but Notre Dame took advantage of that, and they both ran the ball for over 200 yards against a team that wasn't giving up anything on the ground. And Riley Leonard also had his best passing game of the season. So really, that's all I'm looking at. I'm not gonna, again, like the where Notre Dame stacks up in terms of national leaders in the passing game. If you're gonna base what you think of this offense and the passing offense off that, you're never going to be satisfied, just because they're never going to rise high enough based on where they came from at the start of the season. Can they be better week to week? That's the biggest question to me.
I mean, to me, to sum it up, like the
Oh, I see
running.
what Michael is saying. He said he's looking at it from a Georgia Tech perspective. Like, if you're Georgia Tech and you're looking at those numbers, then yeah, you're not going to be impressed either. Pick your poison. Yeah.
Notre Dame's run attack is the base to their offense. The passing attack just needs to be enough to complement the passing game. When teams really want to overload and stack the box, you got to be able to hit some of those pass plays to kind of alleviate the pressure and hold those safeties kind of true to their depth, right? Like the more they creep down, the more you have to do to attack them vertically down the seams, really. So again, I have no problem with how Notre Dame scores their touchdowns and kind of the method of the madness. As long as they're moving the ball, the offense, the passing game just needs to do enough to alleviate that pressure for the run game. But the run game is going to be the majority of the offense going forward.
Jesse, this is all foreplay, is what this is, because I've got people in here begging for the whiteboard. Are you going to satisfy them or not?
Yeah, I made sure and did some homework today.
Okay.
I like to look at common opponents, so I watched the Georgia Tech and Louisville game. I thought that
Okay.
was the most, most true, right?
I mean,
Like
it's
Notre
get
Dame,
sandwiched in between, basically. Yeah.
right? And so I think it gives you a good basis or understanding, for how a team is going to perform to a degree when you look at common opponents. And that Georgia Tech and Louisville game was like a tied game going into the fourth quarter, and so. I don't think that this Georgia Tech game it's going to be a tough game. And I think if Notre Dame makes enough mistakes, in the special teams game or turnovers or pre-snap penalties, they could find themselves in a tough situation. But if they play how they're supposed to, they should take care of business against Georgia Tech. But Georgia Tech is going to present some difficult schemes on offense. They have a dynamic quarterback. They have a dynamic running back. And really the way I look at kind of how Georgia Tech operates is a lot how I thought Colin Klein and Connor Wigman would operate in that first game against Texas A&M. But we didn't necessarily see, Wigman do a lot of running the ball. But Georgia Tech's quarterback will run the ball. There will be design runs for him. And it's just a lot of, like I said, against Texas A&M, how they kind of get your eyes to go one way and then they kind of counter back the other way. That's a lot of what Georgia Tech's going to do. And so if I'm Notre Dame, this week the emphasis has to be for the linebackers just to, to trust what you're seeing, essentially, right?
Eye discipline.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of eye discipline, a lot of discipline in general. And the thing I'm looking at the most too is the Viper and defensive end spots, because those guys have to set the edge. They're going to be the read man. And when you're, getting into the number 2 and 3 strings, in terms of kind of depth chart from where they were at the beginning of the season, these guys have to be really disciplined and step up and be able to set the edge. And so that's the number one thing I'm looking forward to.
I mean, that was something Vince and I were talking about it earlier in the show. We were talking about, like, I felt like once, like, after that first drive that Stanford had that resulted in a touchdown, that's like you really started to see Cross and Mills start to chew some things up in the middle of that line. And when they were destructive in the middle and getting that pressure up the middle on Daniels, that's where it started. But I was also impressed, like you talked about setting the edge. I was impressed with how, like, the discipline that the edge rushers for Notre Dame had in not running past Daniels and keeping him in that pocket and not letting him get back outside as a runner. What did you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I think it's a lot easier for people like Mills and Cross when Notre Dame gets out to a big lead. You don't have to be as disciplined, and you can more so, especially as interior defensive linemen, just kind of pin your ears back and try to, create as much destruction as possible. And that's when Notre Dame can get into trouble. If this is a close game, back and forth, that just requires more discipline because a team becomes not as much a one dimension team, right? The more you can stay a 2-dimension team and keep a teams true in terms of pass and run, then you're going to have more success. Stanford got a lot one dimensional because they had to catch up. They were down 28-7, right? So
Mm-hmm.
the more that Georgia Tech keeps this game close, the more it keeps Notre Dame disciplined, especially amongst, a defensive line that's got a lot of injuries going on right now.
They're an interesting team because they don't force a lot of turnovers, but they also don't turn the ball over very much. Like there's not, the same with the sacks. They don't give up sacks, but they also don't get to the other quarterback a lot, So it's just really interesting looking at sort of the way they're built. It to me, it all starts with their ability to run the football like that.
Yeah.
That's where it is, and that really sets things up even on the other side of the ball as well. If they're able to run the football effectively, they're going to be able to most likely stay in the game and have a fairly successful day.
That's the kryptonite to beating this Notre Dame defense is you have to be able to successfully maintain the run game. That's what NIU did. That's what Louisville did last year at Louisville in that game. The more a team can keep Notre Dame honest and run the ball, the harder. That's what's going to break that defense ultimately, right? But I think that I have more confidence now because of the progression that these linebackers have made. And I definitely think they, kind of learned from their prior mistakes at the beginning of the season. And it will be less about what Marcus Freeman called fit ball and just playing more natural football. I think they've kind of gotten that out of their system. And that goes back to just kind of trusting your instincts, right? Everything doesn't have to be this is what I see and this is how I fit it. Sometimes you just have to naturally go where your eyes take you at the end of the day, right? You always have to keep an eye. You have one eye on the lineman and you got one eye on who's got the ball. So if you go cross-eyed, that's on you.
I feel like I'm talking to Aaron Rodgers right now. Are you like ayahuasca, like, like doing your, just kind of mellow trip and, kind of come in, shooting the stuff?
It's all the sinus medicine I've been taking.
Are you just going to sit here and tease us the whole time? Are you going to break out the freaking whiteboard or what? What are you going to do here?
Yeah, I didn't know if we were ready. I was kind of setting the stage here.
I've asked you a few times if you're breaking out whiteboard. I don't know what you're doing.
Let me see. Hang on one second. I'm on a new setup.
Okay.
So bear with me here for a second. Can you see that?
I can. You want me to put it in?
Yeah, put it in because I can only see this screen now.
Right.
So
I'm gonna go ahead and blow it up. I'm gonna blow it up here. Take us out of the picture.
Here we go.
That's right, Joe. The stage has been set for 10 minutes.
How are we feeling? Can you see this okay?
Joe, the other Joe says Jesse makes us wait till the fourth date.
That's right. I don't give out the goods on the first date.
Oh, the Joes are bringing the heat on Jesse. Yeah, I can see it extremely well. I see greens. I see blues. Let's make it happen. Let's go. Let's do this thing.
So this right now is 11 personnel, right? Ball is on the left hash.
We're looking at Georgia Tech offensively, correct?
Correct. And actually, I take that back. This is 12 personnel. They have one running back and two tight ends. I mean, one true tight end here on the end man of the line of scrimmage on the right side, and then more of like an H-back or fullback here, kind of split behind the left tackle on the left side. Okay. And then you have the running back is actually split out to the right here. And the quarterback is, in shotgun and the load man in the backfield, I guess you could say, right? But I really like this play because it goes back to, and this is stuff that Notre Dame has to keep an eye on. So they come out in this 12 personnel and the running back is split out in the slot, But immediately what they're going to do is they're going to motion this running back into the backfield. And then as soon as he's kind of stacked here on the up back, the H back behind the left tackle, they're going to snap the ball as soon as he's stacked here. And on the snap of the ball, the whole entire offensive line, including this tight end, are just going to block down or reach the guy to the left. So they're going to reach. And this tight end is just going to forego the last two men on the line of scrimmage. And his job is to get up to the second level and, wall off this linebacker. So everything's moving to the left. You have motion coming to the left. You have your offensive lineman blocking down to the left. But on the snap of the ball, that running back is going to put his foot in the ground. He's going to come back. Let me see if I can change the color here to make it a little bit better. He's going to come back to the right, and there's going to be a mesh with him and the quarterback, and they're going to fake a handoff. Well, in this situation, they do fake the handoff, but it's almost like, an RPO read. The quarterback can give the ball here, or he can pull it and keep it for himself. He fakes the handoff. This H-back is going to come back to the right here. So again, everything's blocking to the left, but he's going to pull off to the right here, and he's going to wall off the first end man on the line of scrimmage. Running back is going to take this fake dive, and he's going to try to also get out to the second end man on the line of scrimmage here. And the quarterback then keeps the ball and almost runs basically, a power scheme behind these two, your H-back and your running back that you just faked the dive to. So everything's flowing to the left. This guy comes in motion to the left on the snap of the ball. He puts his foot in the ground. He comes back right with this fullback, and they act as lead blockers here for the quarterback in a power scheme. So this is a play that I'd like to see, honestly, Riley Leonard run, because it's a really good schematically drawn up play. And it's something that Notre Dame has to be.
And if you've got Jeremiah Love as a decoy.
Right. And that's the thing that Notre Dame has done really well, between Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price, is they've established the run. And so when they're in the game, you don't know who they're going to give the ball to. They could give it to Love. Riley Leonard could keep the ball. But, Jeremiah Love and Riley Leonard have respectively ran the ball 65 and 63 times. And they're both averaging over 6.5 per carry, and they each have 8 or 6 touchdowns. So, it's almost like a pick your poison situation. But this quarterback for Georgia Tech can also run the ball very well. So it's something that Notre Dame has to be aware of. But luckily, they practice against Riley Leonard all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And 2 weeks in a row that they've prepared for a guy who can take off and run with it. And I don't know if you heard, the early part of the interview with Chad Bishop that we just had. Haynes King, the starting quarterback, is day to day, and it's not known if he will play against Notre Dame Saturday, but the backup, Pyron is his name, Zach Pyron, is another mobile guy. So, the offense is not going to change much, if at all, if you go from one quarterback to the other. Both of them are going to have the threat of being able to keep the ball and run it. So I don't know if Pyron will be as dynamic. He is much less experienced than a Haynes King, so I think that is a potential factor, especially if you do make him have to start throwing the football, making some more decisions, if it's Pyron and not Haynes King out there.
All right, so that was one of 3. I have 2 more left. Let me see. Hopefully I can navigate to this next one. Which one do I want to do first? I'll do this one. So while I'm kind of get it all set up again, if you don't mind.
Here we go.
I'll try to get a view here that's as zoomed in as possible. I think this is the best it's going to get. So another common theme that I noticed when watching this Georgia Tech and Louisville game is Georgia Tech loves, and I think this is, it has to be by design. They love to spread things out. So right now you can see quarterback is an empty, and they have what I would call a diamond formation off to balls on the right hash. So to the field side, they have a diamond formation, right? So you have, basically 4 wide receivers lined up in a diamond, if you can picture that, right? And I think that they do this to give the quarterback 2 options. Really, what all they're doing here is they're spreading everyone out and letting this box be as empty as possible. And I think from there they decide to let the quarterback, if he sees that he's got the numbers, he's just going to take the ball and run. And so I've seen this out of Diamond, and I've seen this out of basically two stacks where, there's two wide receivers stacked on these numbers and there's two wide receivers stacked out on these numbers. And again, it pulls those defensive backs all the way out there, and it lightens up the box a little bit, right? So if I'm Notre Dame and I'm some of these linebackers and I see, this diamond formation or a 2x2 stack where they're really pressing the numbers and trying to, stretch out the field, I would be alerting quarterback draw immediately because, again, the middle of the field in this picture is wide open. And that's exactly what Haynes, his name's Haynes King, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly what he does here. These two outside wide receivers, they're going to, streak down they're going to streak here. And just kind of clear this thing out. This point man on the diamond is gonna, block off this corner, and then the back wide receiver in this diamond formation is gonna fake a screen, right? So all these offensive linemen are showing pass protection, and they, this wide receiver shows screen. Quarterback opens up, he fakes the screen, this way. And then all he's got to do is just pick a hole that he likes, and he's just going to run through it, more than likely get behind his guard that's, working up to the second level. And again, this is nothing crazy, but they got 20, 30 yards out of this quarterback run by just spreading everything out, snapping the ball, faking a screen, and allowing Haynes King to just kind of pick a hole that he likes and run through it, essentially. So this one's a little bit less, schematically maybe impressive, but again, if you're a viewer at home this weekend and you see them go into this diamond quad or a stack 2x2, immediately kind of alert to yourself, all right, well, this is probably 50-50 chance of a quarterback draw here right through the middle of the defense.
Interesting. All right.
I saw it, and I saw him do it at least 2 or 3 times. One was out of this quad, and again, the other one was just like a 2x2 stack where they're both essentially on the numbers. And again, all that does is it makes these because if these defensive backs and safeties and linebackers don't honor it, then all he's got to do is flip that ball out to this wide receiver, and now it's an easy screenplay that's going for 10 yards. So again, I think it's kind of built in. Whatever Haynes King sees, he's going to be the ultimate decider and say, all right, well, I'm either going to throw this thing or I'm just going to immediately run a quarterback draw.
Yeah. And I mean, when you talk about that many receivers on the field as well, with the depth of Notre Dame's secondary right now, it's something to keep an eye on, I guess,
Mm-hmm. All right, let me see. I got one more. This one's a lot more fun. So let me find it here. Let me know when you've got it all worked up here.
There you go.
All right, so
a lot going on here.
Yeah, this is more kind of schematically impressive compared to what we just saw. So again, this is like a similar 12 personnel look that we did on that first play. You got balls in the middle of the field. You have a tight end to the left, and then you have an H-back also to the left, stacked behind the tight end. You have one wide receiver off to the left and 2 wide receivers off to the right. So the only person in the backfield at the snap of the ball is going to be the quarterback and that H-back. But again, this is a very similar scheme to the first play, and again, testing that eye discipline for Notre Dame players. What they're going to do is bring this kind of number 2 wide receiver here to the right side in motion. And if it's not in motion, he's very close to the line of scrimmage. So at the snap of the ball, they're bringing this guy in almost like a jet motion look. And the quarterback, again, is going to, essentially fake a handoff right here. And then your H-back and your tight end are going to be reaching here to kind of close off, the end man in the line of scrimmage, which would be the defensive end, and this outside linebacker. So, at the snap of the ball, both these guys are reaching off to the left. This wide receiver / running back is coming in jet motion. So everything looks like it's going to the left, right? And then all of a sudden, your left tackle and your left guard are going to be pulling kind of to the backside here. And again, the guard is going to hit this in man on the line of scrimmage. This left tackle is going to keep on going and work it up to the second level here, probably to the outside linebacker. So again, they're going to fake that handoff on the jet sweep. Everything looks like it's going to the left. Offensive linemen are going to the left. And now all of a sudden you have your backside guard and tackle who are going to be pulling towards where that jet motion came from. They're going to fake the handoff, and that quarterback again is just going to run behind his guard and tackle on a power scheme and try to get as much yards as possible. But this all works again because of showing motion one way and then pulling guys basically to the opposite direction and allowing the quarterback to make the decision of, do I hand it here on the jet sweep and let him try to secure the perimeter, or do I keep it myself and try to secure the perimeter on the opposite side of the field? So this is a really tough play, in my opinion, to defend because both perimeters are vulnerable, right? And so that's where I was talking about with these young defensive linemen, not young defensive linemen. I mean, some of them are, but maybe guys who you didn't expect to play as much at the beginning of the season, but are stepping up into big roles because of some injuries. Mm-hmm. They have to be really disciplined and setting the edge here and forcing things to kind of funnel back inside where the rest of the help is. You can't get beat on the outside by these wide receivers, and especially you can't get beat on the outside by this quarterback. So
that's the key to the whole thing is the defensive ends setting that edge and not falling for all this back and forth and all the motion and pulling and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and not only the defensive ends, but really whoever the inside linebacker is, because he's going to be the help no matter what. Because as you can see here, the outside linebackers are trying to get reached here by a tight end, an H-back, or maybe a pulling guard or tackle. This linebacker, no matter what, is the overflow player, right? So if things funnel back inside, he's got to be here to clean it up or here to clean it up. Okay, maybe the play breaks to the outside. Well, now he's got to be the guy to come over the top on either side and kind of make the play. So I expect someone like Drake Bowen, Josh Burnham, Junior Tuihalamaka, Bryce Young. Those guys are the guys that need to have big games of just containing this run, right? Like the defensive ends force everything inside. And if it's forced inside, then Drake Bowen's got to be there to clean it up. And then say maybe they break containment and things start going outside. Well, then it's Drake Bowen's job to chase this guy to the sideline and not allow him to turn the ball upfield.
So with all the eye candy, that we talk about with again, you've got, on this particular play, you've got the left guard and left tackle both pulling to the right, and then the other side of the line is down blocking to the left. So with all this stuff showing in different directions, what is the key read or reads for that middle linebacker to keep himself in position to make the right play?
Yeah, so immediately when this number 2 wide receiver goes in motion, the first thing that these linebackers are going to do are communicate or just kind of give, like an alert jet, right? So naturally their eyes and their steps at pre-snap are going to take them, this direction. But as I think I've kind of talked about this before, you still have to stay in phase. So as this guy is coming across your face, so let's say he ends up right here on the snap of the ball. It's the job of this linebacker to stay on this inside shoulder of the runner, right? So if he does give him the ball, he still has the leverage to come downhill and make this tackle wherever it happens to be, right? But say he fakes that handoff, he cannot be and that's the thing is if they follow this thing so much, let me get rid of this line, so much so that why won't it let me grab this guy? Hang on one second. At the snap of the ball, maybe say he's over pursued, right? That's where you get in trouble. So if you're on this kind of field side shoulder and they fake that handoff, well, now you've got to cover ground all the way back this way to try to make that tackle. So that's why it's important to stay on that upfield shoulder, because it gives you the opportunity to make a play on the jet. And if they fake that, it's okay. Well, now I can recover and come back and make it over here. So when I see alert jet, I'm naturally kind of, flowing this way a little bit, couple steps, kind of working downhill. But immediately what you see as the linebackers, you're taught to read your triangle. So let me try to pick a different color here where I can draw in a triangle. Your triangle as the linebacker is going to be something along the lines of this. This is your triangle that you're reading, center guard, kind of tackle area, right? So snap of the ball, yeah, you see that jet man going, but you also got to see what's right in front of you. And what's right in front of you is a guard and left tackle pulling. So you're like, all right, well, if those guys are pulling and I see a fake handoff, now immediately it's kind of, let's abandon that and start again slow meshing, reading this direction with the quarterback. And again, it's that same concept. If you're the linebacker, you don't want to go past this kind of shoulder right here, because the more you over pursue, say you get on this kind of outside shoulder of the quarterback, well, then that allows the quarterback to hit some sort of cutback lane, right? So like everything is just staying in phase until you've diagnosed it, and then you get downhill and attack. As soon as you've kind of made that declaration of, all right, I know what's happening. These guys are pulling. I need to get downhill and go make a play.
All right.
I liked that one.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to that as well, but I think that's kind of, like when you look at this one specifically, it seems like there's like, that's kind of one of the foundations that Georgia Tech kind of runs its offense off of, right?
Yeah, and again, this is kind of the stuff I anticipated more out of Texas A&M, but I just don't know if Colin Klein trusted Wegman yet. I don't know if his legs were as potent as someone like Haynes King, but this is the type of stuff that I think a lot of offensive coordinators are getting into, is showing you motion one way and then coming back the other way.
What's your confidence in Notre Dame's linebackers and defensive ends going up against this?
I mean, they've been pretty solid in the run so far. And I would say that I would be more concerned with Georgia Tech's running game than I would their passing game. So I would give it a solid 7 or 8 out of 10. I mean, the quarterback and running back are still dynamic playmakers. And I don't think Notre Dame's going to be perfect. I think Georgia Tech is going to hit some, some big plays, which I would consider 10+ yard runs. They might have a few of those, but at the end of the day, this defense is so good about bending but not breaking. And so I don't think Georgia Tech might get down in the red zone, but I don't see them being able to punch the ball in those kind of last 20 yards, really. I think it's a lot of Notre Dame maybe giving up, a lot of rushing yards up front, but then kind of buckling down on the red zone and forcing some field goals.
All right. Sounds good. A good return, a great return of the whiteboard tonight. People have been waiting for it for a long time to consume the whiteboard, and they ate it up.
There hasn't been a comment in the chat for 20 minutes.
I was going to say, you can always tell when the attention is very rapt because they stopped chatting. So the chat went silent. There were crickets from the chat there for a while.